This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and for the first time in 2 years I'm delighted to be joined by former world champion turned trainer John David Jackson here in Miami. John, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you very much. It's great to be here once again in your presence.
No, it's your way around. It's great to be here with yourself, John. How are you finding Miami so far?
Well, you know, I've lived in the Miami area for 15 years now, so this is okay by me. The weather's always nice, except in the summertime when the hurricane season starts, but you know, everything's beautiful.
Obviously, it's fight week for one of your guys, Majidov. Talk to me about his preparations. How has he been looking?
He's looking well. You know, he was training with Povetkin for a while, getting ready for his fight. I think he maybe too much damage to Povetkin, but that's part of the game. He's ready. He's definitely ready for this fight. He comes to the training camp always prepared and in shape, so that makes my job easier. And he listens well, so I think we have a pretty good game plan for this fight, and we should be victorious.
Fedosov's been inactive for a couple of years now. How key do you think that's going to be to work into Majidov's favour?
You know, listen, I think it's going to work well into our favour. Like you said, he's been off for a while, no real competition. Not saying that he hasn't been in the gym probably sparring with someone, but, you know, fights and sparring are two different things totally. I think it works in our favour. We just have to capitalize on that part also, as well as just the timing and just being prepared. But it definitely plays a part that works in our favor.
I remember when I spoke to you in Saudi about Majidov, and you highlighted how excited you were to see his progression and where his career can go. Victory for him on Saturday night, where does it go for the remainder of his year?
For the remainder of the year, that's a good question. You know, after the victory, he has to really be on a fast track because of his age. And you know, as one gets older, they start to have injuries occur. Not that he has any now, but you can see that he can't stay around a long time. So I think that, you know, I just spoke with Eddie. I think we're going to put him on a fast track and at this point start fighting bigger name fighters on the way down with good names. You know, and then get yourself in position for a title shot.
Have you got kind of an ideal opponent in mind, or some opponents that come to mind as to who they could be next to face? Majidov, I mean, in the press conference, weigh-in earlier, he was shouting for Anthony Joshua next. I don't think that will happen, but have you got anybody in particular in mind?
Well, you know, believe it or not, Anthony called him out back in in December, because he beat Anthony in the amateurs. So, but now that Anthony has Fury, hopefully, then that puts him way in the back of the pack. So. Right at the top of my head, I couldn't really say of any one particular heavyweight that I think he should fight that's in the top 10 or top 20. At this point, just whomever you can get. Just take them. You can't be picky. If you can get someone in the top 20 that has a good name and that's going to bring recognition to you quicker, take that person. You know, give us a few names. I'll pick the one I think is the best. I hate to say it this way, but the most beatable and the least amount of work to get him where he needs to get to. Because when we get to the top 20, when you get there, most of the guys can fight. So, you know, once you fight them, you gotta be on top of your game. It's not just like, I'm gonna give you a freebie. Yeah. So, you know, at that point, and I think that's the road he's on. I think that's the road that Eddie's on also. Just
with Saturday night, before we move forwards, what should we expect from him? What have you guys been working on during this period?
The main thing for me is just take your time, because his opponent's not going anywhere. He's right in front of him. You know, you have to look for him. He's right there. That makes the job easier for us. So just, you know, use that good jab and go to the body. Break this kid down, because he's not used to being hit by body shots. Most guys go to try to aim for his head. Go to the body, break him down, and the hands will fall eventually. You'll catch him with a good shot and knock him out. I just think that his opponent's just not evasive enough to get away from his shots, and that makes it easier for us. So Maga just has to be persistent and patient. Take your time. Use that good jab and then go to the body.
I do want to get your thoughts on the headline event as well. Demetrius Andrade, Liam Williams. Your thoughts, John?
You know, Demetrius is a good fighter. He's slick, evasive, good boxing skills. It's going to take a really good fighter to beat him. I don't know if his opponent's the one to do it, but you know, he's got a chance to become champion of the world by defeating Demetrius. So, you know, I hope it's a good fight for the fans. That's all I hope.
Demetrius has been very vocal about wanting to face one of Gennady Golovkin or Jamal Charlo next if he's successful on Saturday night. What are your thoughts on either of those fights for Demetrius?
Well, I think for Demetrius, the fight that the fans would probably want to see would be him and Charlo, because it's not that they really have a lot of beef going, but when they see one another, it's not nice, So I think that's the fight that the fans would want to see, because they'll build it up to a point where it's really nice. They hate each other. Not to say they do, but they make it seem that way. Gennady, gentleman, mannerable, won't say much, so he might not really excite the fans, but the way he punches and at this stage of his career, how much is left in his tank would make that a point. So either fight is good, but I think Charlo and Andrade is better, because, like I said, Charlo is probably going to make him fight, make him really fight. I'm not saying that Triple G wouldn't, because he would. I just think for the fans, that's the more exciting fight. But if he can get either one, that'd be great.
I mean, talk to me about that. Let's say if it was Charlo next, how would you expect it to play out? Charlo's a decent fighter. They're both good fighters. I think Charlo would have to be the aggressor. He'd have to try to break him down systematically. And I think that Andrade would have to definitely be on the top of his boxing game. Boxing, take him to school, and see if he can outmaneuver him. I think it'd be a chess match. I think it'd be an interesting fight. If Charlo catches him with a good shot, he's going to try to jump right on him. Andrade has to be smart and then take him to school for the 12 rounds. I just think it'd be an interesting fight for the fans, and I'd watch it. John, just moving forwards, I want to get your thoughts on another one of your fighters, Claressa Shields. Obviously, she's recently announced she'll be moving into MMA. Just obviously your thoughts on that as a trainer.
I'm not crazy about it, but it's what she wants to do, and she's entitled to do what she wants to do. And I back her on it. I definitely back her when she comes to the gym. We work on certain things to make sure she's punching, because in the sport she's going in, at least the first few opponents won't be killers. So she can knock them out just punching them. My biggest, concern is that when she fights him, like can really fight, and they get in a chokehold, will choke her out. So, and I don't hope that happens to her. I hope she wins all of them, because hey, she deserves it. She's definitely trying to just put her name out there in a nice way. She's not robbing anybody, stealing. So I think she'll do well. She's from the streets of Flint, and she had to grow up in a rough atmosphere, and she can fight. I think she'll do well.
You're mentioning there kind of her coming fights in MMA, so do I take it she's got a long-term plan to stick around in that sport, or what is going to be her future in boxing?
Listen, the money's good in MMA. She'll probably stay there. Boxing, I think she's right now with her and Savannah. That's the fight, and that's the fight that the fans want to see, because Savannah, they're both going to talk it up real nice. And here's the thing, but Savannah holds the only victory over her as an amateur. So, and Claressa definitely wants to avenge that. Savannah thinks that she's the better fighter. It's funny. They both met. We're in London 2 years ago, and they met up. And Savannah was real quiet when they were standing next to each other, and then the interviewer was talking to him. She was too nice. Now she got brave all of a sudden. That's okay. So maybe somebody got in her head and said, "You need to talk this up." But boxing-wise, she's not at Claressa's league. She's not in the same league. Amateur, maybe Claressa had a bad night. I don't know. She lost a fight for whatever reason. But as a pro, Savannah's not the same fighter that Claressa is. Claressa moved past that. Listen, make the fight, and we'll see what happens. It'll be an interesting fight.
So would the Savannah fight be the only fight for Claressa currently in boxing?
I think it would be the biggest money fight for her, because there's no other real names out there that probably grab the general public's interest for her. And I think that, like I said, she and Savannah probably talk it up real nice. They go back and forth and make it very interesting. But other than that, no, she pretty much dominated most of the divisions, the three that she's had. There might be someone out there in the woodwork that's coming out now that might give her a problem, but we haven't seen that person yet, so we don't know. I think right now the biggest fight monetarily is her and Savannah. If you can make that this year, that'd be great. That'd be great for all of us. So, if it happens, wonderful. And if it does happen, I think it's going to happen more towards the end of the year.
From a training perspective, what position will you hold with Claressa in MMA now? Will you continue to train her? Or?
I would love to. I don't know what her position is. MMA, they get too many trainers, first of all. You got grappling, you got wrestling, you got this, you got that. Listen, if she wants me, I'm there. If she doesn't, I'm okay with it, because boxing is my thing. I can give her the boxing part. If she needs me, I'm there. It depends on what she wants to do.
Just a few other fights I want to get your thoughts on before I leave you to enjoy the rest of your evening, John. Obviously, you mentioned AJ-FURY earlier. Massive fight, seems to be getting closer and closer. Your thoughts, if we do see it cross the line, how does it play out?
Well, like I told Eddie inside, it's an interesting fight. It's intriguing. The better boxer is Fury. He's the better fighter. Joshua's too stiff. The better puncher, I believe, is Joshua. So it's a chess match. Joshua has to be relaxed. He has to get a good game plan. He has to go to the body. If you watch a couple of Fury's fights, these clowns he was fighting, man, they're aiming for his head. He's on the ropes, just having a good time. What's wrong with going to his body? I think Joshua punches hard enough, he can go to the body and make it a difference. But you can't let Fury get ahead of you. Like what I mean by that is 4 or 5 rounds in the bank, and you got to play catch up. So now you're gonna throw your fight game out. You're playing out the window, just try to get him out of there. It's an intriguing fight, and it's interesting. And it's a fight that I believe the fans deserve to see. So I'm hopefully it gets made soon. And right now it's a pick 'em. Honestly, if I had to lean one way or the other, right now I give Fury the edge. I'm not saying that Joshua can't win, because with all rights he can. And I'd be surprised if the fight wasn't held either in Europe or Saudi Arabia or someplace. I mean, it's not an American fight, honestly. It's more, but it's one that we all want to see, and hope it gets made. And right now, I give the edge right now to Fury, but I think once Joshua, if he gets the right game plan, it's a pick 'em, or he has a better than even chance to win the fight.
You've been around boxing a long time, John. You've been in some great fights yourself. With AJ-FURY, where would that rank in your entire kind of involvement in the sport? Where would you put AJ-FURY?
In this day and age, I think to me it'd be a very important fight for boxing, because you need those kind of fights to keep the game alive, because they're intriguing and it gets the fans' imagination really going. So and it's, you don't want to be like Mayweather Pacquiao, where it was like 5 years too late. You don't want that, And even now, like Spence Crawford, you're not making this fight, and soon people say, you know what, they don't want to see it. So hopefully this one gets made, and it piques the fans' interest, and it turns out to be a good enough fight where a rematch is in store. I think it can be that kind of fight if both fighters participate and say, let's make it has to be like a Hagler-Hearns type thing. Let's go to war. Will it be because of Fury's style? That's hard to say. I mean, he can punch. Listen, you can't underestimate Fury. He's proved with Wilder that he can punch, and he proved that he's smart. After the first fight, he knew right away what he had to do to win the fight. It wasn't that he brought Sugar Hill in. Trust me, he knew himself. For whatever reason, he brought Sugar Hill in. It was okay, which is great for Sugar Hill because he got paid. But he didn't need him. He didn't need anybody, because he knew at that point what he had to do to beat Wilder, and he proved that because he made the second fight so easy. I just think that for him and Josh would be a great fight if they do what they're supposed to do, and I think they have to keep the sport going the way it should go.
Just on Deontay Wilder, John, I just want to get your thoughts on his comments as a respected trainer, somebody who's achieved so much in the sport like yourself. What did you make of what he said about Mark Breland and obviously their eventual split?
Well, the things he said about Mark was similar to what Sergey said about me. I poisoned the water. I don't know, where these guys get that from, because we as trainers, you got to think about this. When we go to camp, if you're there for 10 weeks, we're there for 10 weeks. Whatever you go through, we're going through. Whatever pain and suffering, we go through more because we hit the crap you're crying about. So for him to say those things about Mark, I don't know why he say that, but Mark saved your life. Mark had more than enough guts to throw the towel in. The other guy didn't. If you'd have got killed, he'd have been right there, just say, he should have done something different. No, Mark said, listen, I want you to be able to fight another day. He stopped the fight. A lot of fighters can't see that. Mark cared enough to say, man, you know what, this is not for you. Let's go back. Maybe tomorrow we'll get a bit of a game plan. And so the fighters, sometimes they just can't take that. Mentally they're all, they got to blame somebody. Who's the first person they blame? The trainer. Well, listen, it's like Sergey said, I didn't teach him anything because you didn't listen. I didn't have to teach you how to jab. You know how to jab. I didn't teach you how to punch. You know how to punch. But I told you to go to the body. You wouldn't do that. So when Andrade-Williams is a very smart fighter. Not the quickest, not the strongest, not the hardest puncher. But guess what? He's smart, intelligent, and that played a big part. Sergey didn't want to listen. The first fight, he won the first half of the fight. Second half, he didn't listen. Second fight, he didn't listen at all. And even that fight was close. You know, these fighters today, they just, and not just today. You know, in the past, fighters also cried about that. Once they lose a fight, who's the first person to blame? The trainer. Okay, but what did you do for the last 10 weeks on the stuff you worked on that you didn't do in the fight? Now I'm blamed? You know, just look in the mirror sometimes and say, hey, man, you know what? I screwed up myself. I can't blame anybody else but me. Because when the bell rang, it was just 2 people, 3 in the ring, but just 2 fought. I can't blame anybody else. And for him to do that to Mark is, you know, it's not really surprising that it happened, but I was surprised that he would do that because he's always been a stand-up guy. I've always, you know, he's always spoken and he's always believed in what he's spoken, and he was always just there, you know, just he in whatever cause he believed in it. But for him to say Mark didn't do his job, it's just, wow, it was just a trip.
John, just a couple more fights to touch on. Canelo Saunders a couple of weeks away in Texas. Your thoughts, how do you see it playing out? Does Billy Joe possess the style to defeat the man who many consider the pound-for-pound star in boxing?
I would say had they fought pre-Mayweather Canelo, Billy would have a chance. Not bad. And as you know, I tell people he's a cheap version of myself. Because that's my style, and that's what I did. He's a little bit slower than I was. You know, he's not as evasive, but he's good. I give him credit for what he does. I just think that he's not quick enough for Alvarez. I think that he's good at what he does. And I like what he does. He drives you bananas. You know, not big power puncher, but a very good boxer, very skilled. I think Canelo wins the fight for a lot of reasons, but mainly because he's the better fighter at this stage of his career. You know, his loss to Mayweather taught him a lot, and it taught him. The one thing that showed him is that he wasn't as good as he thought he was. So he thought he was all that back then. Well, when Mayweather took him to school, I think he stepped back and said, you know what? I'm not really as good as I thought I was because this guy just took me to school. And he started learning more. He started learning, you know, and everyone says that his trainer is a great trainer. No, the fighter took time to say, you know what? I got to learn more. And he learned. You know, like I was telling Eddie inside, you know, I can teach you so much, but it's up to you to become better. And how you do that, you watch other fighters also, and you learn from them. You watch the moves they make. You got to steal every now and then from somebody. You check them out, and you learn. And then you try in the gym, and you perfect it to your style, not the way they did it, because you can't. It's like the way Roy Jones fights. No one can ever fight that way. Not maybe in 20 years somebody might come on that can do that, but that was natural. It wasn't taught. So and when I say that, Roy's biggest problem was when he got older. So no one taught him how to be evasive, other than the way he did naturally. So when his legs gave away, he was through, because all he did was cover up. So that's what hurt him. So, you know, a guy like Canelo, he saw all the shortcomings that he had with his fight with Mayweather, and he said, I got to better myself. And that was, in defeat, it was a great lesson for him. You know, Billy Joe is evasive. He's, you know, I'm not going to knock him because he's a bad fighter. I'm just saying, I don't think he has the firepower to offset whatever Canelo's going to do. But Canelo can go in there and just try to rush him, and I don't think he will. I think he has a great game plan, and I think he'd be victorious. I'm not saying that Billy Joe can't win. I don't think that's a fight that he's going to win.
Final fight, I want to get your thoughts on an undisputed bout at 140 pounds. Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez. Break down for me again, John. What do you expect from it?
I'm gonna be honest with you about that one. That weight division, I don't really watch those guys that much. So I can't lie to you and say, you know, I would never do that to you. No, I have no idea.
That's all good, John. Listen, I appreciate your time today. Enjoy the rest of your time in the bubble, and of course, best of luck on Saturday night.
My pleasure for having me. Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.